I don't make $20 million a month on Patreon. You know what I mean? I'm out here living a regular life.
Neither does other people, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Someone say neither does anybody.
Yeah.
No, but
some would say neither does anybody.
But
Mal takes shots at Joe Budden. Yeah, on the last episode of Rory and Mal with Peter Rosenberg, of all people, Joe got some shots from his former business partners. Now, what are the shots, you might say? Well, what happened was they were talking about kind of the media industry, and Rosenberg makes a joke about not making $20 million on Patreon or $20 billion a year. And Mal adds and says, well, you're not the only one. So this likely means he is saying Joe don't make $20 million on Patreon. So to me, this is fascinating stuff, because ever since this New York Times article has dropped, there's been many in the industry questioning if he's really making that amount. Well, I would say that we don't know what the nets are. We don't know if I was surprised. I'm not going to lie. Listen, I'm not trying to hate. I do believe he's making a boatload of money, and I do think he is right up there with Charlemagne. I know a lot of you folks are going to say, nah, Charlemagne's making more money than Joe could ever make. But I highly question that, and I doubt that, because I just don't know where Charlemagne's getting $20 million from. So if you want, leave it in the comments, break it down. I do think he's not going without any meals, but at least with Joe, there's some level of transparency where I could say, oh, he got this many Patreon subscribers. With Charlemagne, I don't know what his deal with Kevin Hart is. I don't know what his deal with iHeart is. I don't know what type of kickback he's getting from the Black Effect Network. So that's all I'm going to say there. But as for Joe, the New York Times article didn't really seem to do its due diligence. I mean, there was even a point in the article where they said Patreon called us. They said he was making money, and we just said that was okay. But there's also, beyond Rory and Mal and Joe's relationship, it's an interesting time for Rory and Mal, because as a result of Joe Budden's transparency, quote unquote, people are saying, yo, Rory and Mal, you made a big mistake. You guys were going to be part of the whole layout there. You left the show, and now your show is struggling. Well, I would disagree. I think they're actually doing fine. I do wonder about the longevity of a partnership with Mal, because Mal doesn't seem to really have the greatest work ethic in terms of showing up on time. I know a lot of people, yo, he's the CEO. He can arrive whenever he wants. Not really. Now, if it's a job where you work in the office and the work's going to get done, that's fine. But if it's a job where you actually have to cater towards a schedule where people got to record and people got to bring equipment, that's a whole other thing entirely. But as for Rory and Mal, there's also been some other changes. First, it looks like Rory and Mal Don't Know Ball is going away. The views for that were very paltry. It wasn't getting much traction. And this interview with Rosenberg lets me know they're going in a different direction. Rosenberg, media, all of this type of stuff is really the lane they should go in. And I'm fascinated they never went back to the debate format with DJ Head. I thought they would lean into that, but they didn't, which makes me wonder how serious they're taking themselves. Like, if you had a piece of content that was viral, that DJ Head Mal thing was viral, and you're also seeing other platforms that are doing the debate style format, Rory and Mal could go to the next level if they do that whole 20v1 argument that they do. Like, if Rory gets into a 20v1 argument, that might get so many eyeballs on it. Then there's the name of the titles of their videos. They changed up the names. It used to be random stuff, and now it's what the actual videos are about. So instead of it being something like, you know, like Girls Gone Mal, it'll be something like Pusha T attacks Travis Scott in shocking diss. Now, that is actually a smart change. It's something I suggested like 5 years ago. Well, actually, not 5 years ago. I didn't exist. But 3 years ago, I suggested that Rory and Mal were dropping the ball by making mad abstract titles and not focusing on what they were really talking about. But only time will tell if these things will stick. I do, like I said before, wonder about the longevity of the Rory and Mal platform, because I don't know if Mal's head is in the game. I also feel like they're going to have to find a deal that suits them. But if you just zoom out and look at their channel, they're sitting at 300,000 subscribers. Some of their views, I think they leave a little bit much to be desired. But to be honest, I mean, you look at the platforms, No Jumper, other channels, the views aren't really what they used to be on YouTube. It's hard out here. So for them to even garner this amount of viewership and to be able to go on the road means that they're doing their thing. But back to Rosenberg being on Rory and Mal taking shots and them doubting the validity of the $20 million per year thing that they said on the New York Times article in regards to Joe Budden's business. Is it hate? Or is it Rory and Mal having intimate knowledge of what the business model is really like? Plus, there's a lot of people who think the New York Times article was cleverly placed in order to leverage a better situation with another network who might want to buy or do contracts or do some type of business with Joe Budden. And I could see that because they were talking about how much they pay their cast. They were talking about how much they do this, how much do that. And it would, if I was considering being an investor, let's say I was a Volume, or let's say I was a Ringer or Spotify, I would think, okay, so this is what he's spending. I think I could get that $1.5 million salary thing down, and I could inject my own thing, and I could just buy Joe out and all of this stuff. Now, I don't really get into the business. I'm more so about the interdynamics between the cast. I think that is way more fascinating than the business plays. I think that's what really drives emotion. But I just want to speak about what was the strategy behind this New York Times article. It was a puff piece. And one of my suggestions is that Joe, he's learning from Charlemagne, but he's putting actual numbers behind it. And here's what I mean. Anytime Charlemagne does a deal, oh my God, you're going to see Variety, Vulture, all of these publications act like it's the biggest deal ever. Joe really hasn't had that. Sure, he can go on Twitter and go viral, but he doesn't have the prestige rollout that a guy like Charlemagne has. And this New York Times article was that. It's a way to legitimize him. It's a way to distance himself from that persona he establishes on the pod of being the trick guy who goes out to strip clubs and throws money at these big BBL women. So that is what this was about. And if Joe pulls it off, which he already has done so many things on the checklist of being a mogul, it's really going to go next level. The only play that he hasn't done is the big deal. Like, if he's the first person in the industry to get $100 million deal, obviously Shannon Sharp thing went completely left. But if he's able to do that, that will solidify him as one of the GOATs and possibly put him ahead of Charlemagne. I actually think if he does do that, he will have checkmated Charlemagne. And who could have foreseen Joe Budden checkmating Charlemagne? Years ago, it looked like this guy was a bumbling moron who couldn't get past his own flaws. But now, he's winning the war. I know a lot of you are going to say, nah, Danny, Charlemagne has the Black Effect Network. He's respected. But Charlemagne, he doesn't have his pulse on what really matters anymore to me. I don't think there's been big moments. I don't think there's been anything engaging from Charlemagne in quite some time. His past moves are better than his next moves. His best days are behind him. And with Joe, I don't necessarily know if you can say that, just because he's a better performer than Charlemagne is right now. Now, let me know what you think about Rory and Mal taking shots at the valuation Joe gave. What do you think about Charlemagne versus Joe in the light of him getting this $20 million puff piece out? And also what the industry might be saying. Follow me on Instagram to Stop TV. Follow me on Patreon to Stop. Follow me on Twitter to Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.